are listening to Legacy Moments, where we have authentic conversations about life, business, and so much more to transform your mind, body, and soul. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, and I am joined by my co-host and mom, Johnny Lloyd. Together, we combine my years of psychological training with her years of business and leadership experience to add value to your day. Welcome. And if y'all see us joking a little bit, so we were live for like a whole 3 minutes and we were not live. I did not press the live button. I did all the other things, but I did not press the live button. And so if you are joining us today, so I am staying on YouTube, okay? So I am going to continue to create content, but my mom and I, back in, I want to say it was April 2021, I looked up the start of the podcast and we started April of 2021, season 1 of Legacy Moments. And this is a podcast that I started with my mom. And the whole reason for starting the podcast, I was a guest on multiple other podcasts. And I was just like, I really want to add this to my channel. At the time, I probably had maybe 300 subscribers. This was and it was something that I did to just connect with my audience. Things have shifted. And now I'm doing more court content because I was bringing people on for interviews, but I wasn't doing it in a podcast format. I was doing it in more of a YouTube format. And so I'm not going anywhere. My mom's not going anywhere. She is Mama Johnny Lloyd over on TikTok. She is at Johnny Lloyd here on YouTube. We are going to continue to collaborate here on YouTube. It's just not going to be under this banner. That we are going to be retiring the podcast. All of the old episodes are going to stay up. So nothing is going to change from that perspective. And if you see my computer moving a little bit, I'm trying to come over to Facebook to make that part.
to make sure we are live. Not just live, but are live.
Because that's how I figured out that we weren't live here, because I couldn't find the stream at all over on Facebook. And I knew that we were supposed to be live here and I needed to edit the audience to make it public. There we go. So that part is done. I'm going to give it over to you.
So this is the thing. Legacy Moments, the title Legacy Moments is something that I started off because I did a book. Yeah. I have a book out there that says Legacy Moments, Transformation That Goes Beyond Change, right? So, and that's what we connected to. And we're still connected to that. You'll see we still do publishing under that, all of that. And it's a real live business, right? So this is what happened. Me and Patrice have great conversation. Anyway, we just let y'all join in on our conversation. That's what happened. So, and we thought it was so fun because we would bring up a topic and this is what we would do. No, we can't talk about it because if we talk about it, it's done. It's done. So y'all have been so gracious to allow us to bring in our thoughts, what we believe in, information, helping y'all to transform as we transform. Yes. And the key with seasons is as you transform from one season to another, it doesn't make the history, the past bad, and it doesn't make your future bad. It gives you the power to connect and be in the present, which is a present that we get a chance to unpackage every day.
And I think what gave me the clue that we were in a different season and that it was time to bring the podcast to a close is that I stopped looking forward to it. It seemed like a chore because we would be like, okay, so
when are we going to do this?
When are we going to do it? Because so we were doing it. I had set aside a time on my schedule, Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Pretty much. So we would take breaks for around the holidays. We would take breaks in the summer, but then it just got to a point where we were just like, "Oh yeah, we haven't recorded in 2 months. Oh yeah, we haven't." And it just seemed like an afterthought. And anything I do, I want to do it with excellence. I want to make sure that I am giving it my all. And I'm not in a place where I can dedicate my time to covering cases. I can dedicate my time to providing educational information, and I could also do the podcast too. So we like doing the podcast in person. So
We
that
do.
is like us together, this dynamic for the podcast, it works.
Right.
And we will still have like mother-daughter talk time. We will still do this. It's just not going to be in this format. And I thought that would be something, because sometimes we're holding on to something, but
Come
it's
on.
clearly time. All the signs are there that it's time to shift to something different. And I love the episodes. So our most popular episode is the one where we talked about mother and father wounds. And our very first episode was talking about why legacy. And us being together like this, some of the feedback that we got, some people, they don't have a good relationship with their mother. They don't have a good relationship with family. And we were able to have authentic conversations and really just, and I don't know, like we were able to add to this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about that is what an opportunity. Listen to everything Patrice and I is saying, because even though we're talking about the podcast, there may be something in your life
Yeah.
that you're looking at and you say, should I let it go? It's not feeling the same. And not because sometimes it gets a little hard or a little difficult or a little turbulent. I'm not talking about just that, but you still have a compassion and a passion for it. What happened is we grew out of these boots.
Yeah.
We grew out of these boots. There's so much other things, so many other things going on. Now, the one thing that Patrice didn't add that I'm going to add is because you need to make time for self-care.
Yes.
I don't want us to miss that. She talked about all the stuff that she's doing, right? But you also need time for self-care. And when you don't care for yourself, when you look at a situation and it becomes a little hard for you and you're saying, Dad, I don't have any time for me, then you have to I suggest you re-look at where you're putting your energy and making sure that you get a chance to rebuild yourself.
Yes.
So during this time, and she's right, we looked at the schedule. I had it pinned out
Yeah.
every Thursday. So we do it. And then I stopped asking. I stopped asking. I stopped asking. So every now and then at the beginning, you're like, are we doing something? So it's not because we don't care about the people. It's not because we don't care about each other. It's because we were moving forward. So many other amazing things were happening in our lives. Now, for me, she's talked about some of the things she does with reviewing cases, which is really fun. If you haven't went out there, y'all need to go out there. It is hilarious. Now, what the secret tip, watch her face. Watch her face. Listen to what she said, but watch her face, because she got that honestly from me, right? It's absolutely for me. So the other thing is on my side is I've put out 4 journals in this time, and I've shifted to strategically and intentionally shifted to a place of being who I am authentically is a speaker.
Yeah.
So I have started being on platforms. I've started helping other people learn how to speak, all of those things. But that's my passion.
Yeah.
So when you're doing something and as you move through this season in your life, right, you'll find other things that start attracting themselves to you to cause you to grow. Because when you're helping other people, guess what? You teaching other people, guess what? It builds you up as well.
So I have to comment. I have to go back to the self-care part,
Please.
because last night my husband pointed out something that, so my business is doing very well. So like my clinical practice, my therapy business is thriving. That is my bread and butter. So that's what pays the bills. YouTube is fun, and like I like it, like it- you know, the I can't live off of what I get from YouTube. And what ended up happening is I was starting to burn out. Last night, I was making my son's dinner, and my husband ran up and he was like, "You just said that you're making his breakfast." And he was like, "And last night when it was dinner time, you said you were making his lunch." And so like like so like that was and so last night I literally like I went to bed because what I had been doing is not only had I been like doing all of this and engaging here, I was also staying up until like 12:30, 1 a.m. So I ended up getting caught up with a Netflix movie, the movie Switch. Like I ended up getting caught up with a movie on Netflix, and I'm just watching it until I need to go to bed. I needed sleep. My brain needed to rest, and I was doing too much. And I like to be honest about that
I'm
because
glad.
sometimes people are like, "How do you do it? Like how are you on TikTok? How are you on Instagram? How are you on YouTube? Like how are you doing and running a practice and speaking and doing and it's just
Children
like
and husband.
and like and I need and so I can't do it all. I don't do it all. And there are things that I need to prioritize personally, and making those adjustments and doing that is going to help me have more resources for myself and for my family and for my audience. And so
Right. And it's wonderful to have fun, regardless, whatever your fun is. However, be fair to yourself. Be fair to yourself and your family in your truth. Be authentically you and make sure that you're doing what causes you to not just survive, but to thrive. It's really imperative. Now, she hadn't told me what she just told y'all. I'm
I
like,
thought-
I can see it because she's like a little like it's a bunny, the ever ready bunny. You put it in the battery,
Energizer.
energize it,
It's
energize,
the
and you just keep on
ADHD.
going and just keep on going and keep on going. But then taking the time to allow our brain, our body to heal. Hear me. And it's not because you're sick, it's because your body needs rest. Our brain needs rest. And some of the things that as we move forward, some of the things you'll see if you go back.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about boundaries? That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
When we talked about boundaries, and we talked about boundaries in every area of your life, one of the people that we have to deal with our boundaries is ourselves. Because as I was coming here, I thought, what happened? I thought this month was going to be the month you're off. You were going
Aw,
to be sitting. No, not because of
okay.
this. I got 12 things I'm doing. However, things pop up. But my intentions, and this is what I said today. I said, you're going to go home and you're going to make four
Okay.
flower arrangements. Now, people say that's not resting. Yes, it is
For
for
you.
me. So what is the thing that you look at, maybe nobody else looks at as rest? Something that causes you to go, it helps me go into a creative state, number one. It then allows me to be productive, number two. And then it also allows me to give outside of myself.
Okay. So Sarah said,
Okay.
so first of all, Sarah said that my mom needs to come put me to bed. That's what she said first. Everybody's smiling. And this is how we naturally are. So every day after work, I call my mom and this was how the podcast started. This was how the idea for my book started. But Sarah said intention is everything. And your focus goes with your intentions. And sometimes you can have good intentions and do the wrong thing. And for me, I got to a place where continuing the podcast, it was going to start to hurt other areas, even if it's just like my like, "Oh, okay, we gotta like," because so when we first started, ideas would just come. Like we would like I think our first month or two, we planned out like 8 topics that we were going to talk about, and we just we did them all, and it was phenomenal. The joy and the passion was there. And the last like 6 months, it was just kind of like,
What are we going to do?
well, what are we gonna
What
do?
are we gonna-
It's
And
like,
it's not because we don't have topics in our
yeah,
head. It's not because of that. It's the passion for them.
yeah.
So, and then remember something else.
Mhm.
During a season, part of that season was coming out, being in
Oh yeah, it was
the
COVID.
pandemic.
Yeah.
It was COVID. So something that not just we needed, but there was such a draw on it There was such a draw on it. And now people are going and doing other things and expanding in their life and taking the benefit from the adversity of COVID, from the adversity of whatever they were going through, and they're taking it and making other opportunities. And again, it's seasons. It's seasons. There is no good or bad season in our life.
I like that.
It's how we respond to the season.
And how are you prepared for it? Because it's getting colder. It's not quite officially winter, but it's starting to get colder in Virginia. And if I were to, there's nothing wrong with wearing a summery dress, like wearing a strapless dress in the summer, but people would be looking at me a little weird if I was wearing sandals and a summery dress and there's snow on the ground. Now, if you live in Florida, you don't really get that many seasons. You live in California, you don't really get, official seasons. But and sometimes that can be worse because then everything kind of blends together. So to me, it was, we had clear signs that it was time to make a shift. Sometimes the signs are not as clear. And so I had been feeling this way for about 3 months or so. And I think you brought it up. I think you were like, hey, when are we going to get together to do the podcast?
Because I know her.
Yeah.
I know her. And I said, something's shifting. Yeah. But I see her. Because I'm out in some of the I'm in the platforms and I'm playing and watching. I'm stealth mode sometimes. So why don't you just tell me you're there? And I'd be like, no, stay on your flow. I want to see what you're doing. So, but the other thing is, listen to what we just said. She said, sometimes you're living in a place and you can't see the seasons. They're not as
they blend together.
They kind of blend together. So be careful. And that's why setting an intention, like Sarah said, is so powerful. So I'm going to say, even as we walk this out and talk about it, I would ask you to set your intention on what you want every day. Don't wait until 2024 starts. Don't set up a new, what they call it, resolution. Most people don't keep them. Anyway, but that's a whole different story. We're not going to start a podcast on it. So
sure.
Get on my YouTube channel. I'll do it on YouTube or so, But the key is that when you set your intention, you are able to identify and deal with. She just saw something that was really good.
So Sarah said, I'm assuming I'm thinking Mama, you let her figure out where she is.
Yes.
And, but it got to a point where I had to communicate what I was thinking, what I knew was in my heart. So she was like, when are we going to record it? And I was like, I think we're recording our last one.
And that's kind of what she said, right? She said, I think it's the last one. And I said, but let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are in your life, and people that are in your life, you have to give them space to breathe, to come to a conclusion or end. I didn't start the podcast. I'm the beneficiary of the podcast. I'm a muse in the amusement and muse in the podcast.
Sorry, it's moving around. I need to plug in my computer.
Yeah, y'all don't want to go blank. So, but the other thing is that when people are around you, sometimes they keep on asking you questions. I didn't look at her and say, you know what, I didn't do none of that. Yeah. I said, I kept on, if we're going to do it, let's do it. Because my thing is consistency, because people are looking for something. Consistency is critical. And that's the way she was raised, all of that. And being people of our word. So if we're not going to do it, I'm good with it. However, she had to come to that conclusion. This is the trick when I trip.
Because if she had told me that it was time to end it.
Can I take a drink right now?
So I'm incredibly oppositional. I'll talk about why I don't like oppositional defiant. I don't like to be told what to do. So I think she knew, because if she told me, I think it's time to end it, I would be like, oh no,
you're
she's psyched the psychologist.
I birthed this thing. There's look, I birthed this chick. Anyway, so you see, y'all gonna love this one. Y'all gonna be going back to look at this. But this is the thing. It's the same thing. She was raised to be a thinker.
Yeah.
So when you raise a thinker and you start giving them
choices,
not choices, you give them demands like, girl, this thing is over, or you start saying this, no, we're gonna stop this. She would have just what she did. We've been on here for 4 more months or something. She's bringing my voice down because my voice is high pitched and other things are going on in the office. People are getting paid for this stuff. So anyway, so she said no. However, by me sitting back with husbands and wives, any relationship you're in, sit back, support them where they are.
And ask questions.
And just ask questions. Because when you ask questions, they're taking the question and chewing on it. They may not be chewing on it right now because, I mean, there was a lot of questions I asked. So, but she came to the conclusion. Now, I can't, when she comes to me and says, oh, I think it's the last podcast. Because she called me up and told me. She said, I don't think you called me. Were we on the phone?
We were on the phone.
Oh, well, wait. I think I got it. No.
It wasn't the email. Was it? It wasn't. We were on the phone. We were on the phone. Or I told you when I went to visit you at the house. Were we in person?
This is what she said. She said, I think we're gonna end it pretty soon.
Oh,
I got this. I got a banner. I got a banner.
It's so hard to say goodbye.
When y'all got the banner saying goodbye, I realized we were saying goodbye. And we were leaving. I said, oh, I guess we're leaving.
I thought I clearly so talk about communication, because I thought I clearly said this is going to be the last one. Let's talk about seasons.
She said,
I think we're done. That's probably what I said.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said, I think we're done.
Okay,
wait a minute, wait. Because I know her, I know the thought was,
we're done.
But I got official notification as I messed up my makeup. We got official notification when y'all got the banner.
I made a pretty,
she made this gorgeous
thumbnail.
It's so I got it to say goodbye. And I said,
podcast. My bad. So that's how I am. When I cut something, when I'm done, I'm done. Like no more. Like we don't have to talk about this for 2 years, or we don't have to. I'm done.
But when she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so being a person of your word, we're laughing, but it's true.
Bad.
Yeah, my bad. All right.
So she didn't even call me. Like
no, I didn't call her. I know her.
Oh, okay.
I know her.
I guess
I said, yeah, that was official notice. When I look back at it, she says, I think this is over. It wasn't a thought. It was a real. We're over. But she, I don't know. Anyway, so the key with it is that when that happened,
I ghosted my own mom.
She ghosted me. I thought about that.
I broke up with my mom over email.
Wait a minute. Yeah, it was. I found it on
got
Facebook.
The notification.
I had the audacity. And so I told her, I said, I shared our banner everywhere. I said, but could you, put speaker, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I shared our banner anyway. And this is what she said. Oh, okay. But this is what you have to know.
Oh my gosh.
I knew it was done before she knew it was done.
Okay. Before I communicated.
Before she communicated, I knew it was done because I know her.
I've been feeling this way since about August.
Yeah.
Since
I know her.
About August.
And every time we got an opportunity not to do it, she was in.
I was good.
She was like, yeah, she was good. No, we don't have to do it. So, but we're laughing about it. But what in your life? And so, see, this is the thing about relationship. Can we just, say this? Is that sometimes when things happen and there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication at every level, sometimes you have to look at it and you have to laugh about it because you value the other person so much and you know their heart that they wouldn't ever do anything to hurt, harm, or endanger you.
There was no malice. Like there wasn't.
Oh
like
no,
it
there's
wasn't,
never malice. It's Patrice. It's Dr. Bear. I know y'all know it was. So my baby.
I'm not always direct. So I used to avoid conflict, and so I try not. I don't. So that's where when I talk with my clients about getting more comfortable with conflict is normal. Conflict is okay. That's something that I've had to practice. I say I'm a recovering people pleaser. The whole boundaries thing, I was pretty good with some boundaries, but the boundary of just saying no. So somebody's like, hey, do you want to get together? And it's like, because somebody recently, they gave me a flyer for something and it starts at 6 p.m. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's like 45 minutes from my house. And so I was like, I'm not, oh, thanks. Oh, like, but nope, this is during dinner time in bed. Nope, like this isn't,
but
this isn't
the intention.
The old me might've said, oh, I'll let you know. But I knew when I looked at the banner, no, I'm not. I'm not going to that.
So anyway, so as y'all enjoy our laughter. So this is the other thing is that I knew she was done and I was done. So, and it wasn't done because you don't want to overcook a meal. Can I give it like
Yeah.
that? You don't want to overcook something,
Yeah.
because when you start overcooking something, especially when it's meaty,
Yeah.
because we're together, we're pretty meaty, so because then it starts getting tough, and then when it starts getting tough, then you get to the fact that it just doesn't taste right. You lose all the seasoning in it. So this is what we recommend you do: stay connected.
Yeah.
Stay connected to us.
Ah.
Get connected on my YouTube channel. Hello, and Johnny Lloyd. Um, but stay connected. I'm doing some things. I'm the mindset maven. In this opportunity to be here, I've discovered some things.
What did you learn? Let's go there.
Yeah, I love it. I've learned that number one, our relationship is always fun. So in the relationship, as a parent, I know I don't look like a mama, but I am. Anyway. So anyway,
That comment was earlier that you
just
look like,
saying, I look
that you
so
look
young.
like my sister.
I
And so
love it. Thank
I
you.
am 40. I am 41, and she did not have me when she was 10.
I had her when I was 12.
No.
No, I
She was-
didn't. No, I
She
didn't.
was
No, I
in her
didn't.
20s.
I was way in my 20s, almost 30. But my point for saying that is this: is that when I look at the relationship, parents, when your children are growing, expanding, all the things that we believe that we want for our children, embrace them. And so she was empowered in this. This was her baby. So she was empowered. I came in and I said, well, what are we doing? Whatever. I let her be totally in charge. So when
which works for me.
which works beautifully for her. So I always ask, is there something I need to do? Like today, she had her all set up. I was standing over there because I know my place when she's setting up. I'm either in the way,
And I look at her
and
like,
she look at me like,
"Can you
why
move?"
can you move? Yes, I did birth her. So my thing about
you're
that is, look at the power in that. So give our children power in the place, but they still respect you.
Yeah.
Okay. You still have fun, and when they're young, because see, Patrice wasn't I did not identify Patrice. She just was not identified as my friend when she was younger.
No, like this, we didn't have this type of relationship. Now we did have a pretty open.
We have a very open.
Like we were close. So to me, I would rather my child, if they have a question about something, about like, if they have a question, I would rather them come to a responsible adult than to get answers from their little friends. Like now they're always going to lean on their friends more, but I knew if I wasn't sure about something, I knew that I could always come to her. And the relationships, something that she taught me very early on is, because sometimes I could say, I need you to respond as a friend first, and then you can tell me the mom part.
Yeah, and that's what she did.
And even as an adult, it's like, I just need you to hear this as a friend, and then you can tell me, the mom part.
If you need to.
And because somebody asked a question, really great question, Lisa, about how do you develop a good mother-daughter relationship? Now, every relationship is going to be different. And sometimes people are just naturally closer. So I think me and my son are going to be close. I don't know that he'll be as close to his, but it's like, there's nothing wrong. Like sometimes a child is just naturally more connected to one parent. My mom raised me as a single parent. So we've been together since brief separation when I was born, and we've gotten into that on another video, but no fault of hers. And that reminded her to never keep me from my father.
Not a joke.
And she never spoke negative of my father. Being a single parent is incredibly, like, it can be a lot. And then also there's something called being a married single parent, which that can, where like they're married, but like there's one person that's doing like 100 that's
I'm
doing
familiar.
where and so because there's some married people that feel like a single parent, and so being able to build that relationship along the way. Now there was a time when we had conflict we've talked about that here too, where I was disrespectful to her one time, and what she did was she breathed and she managed her emotions, and I and she ended up kind of letting it go. Now, I needed therapy probably around the time of like 6 or 7, and then maybe again in like preteen, and I probably could have used it again as a teenager. I struggled a lot with self-esteem issues, anxiety, stuff like that. And I think it would have been helpful if I had had someone and
outside of me,
yeah,
and outside of our community,
yeah.
someone that she could go to that was only, that was her and the person,
Mhm.
that was a trained person,
Mhm.
is what I want to add to.
Because I do think, and my mom's been very open, so we were not as emotionally intelligent, like, so her thing was, "What you got to be mad about?" Like,
Wait a minute.
"Why are you mad?
Yeah.
I pay the bills. I like, why are you in my house?" But, like, I had like, I wasn't with like, I had emotions,
Mhm.
and so she's been able to come to me like along the way, even when I was a child and as an adult, and she's been able to say, "Hey, these are the things I would have done different." No
Yeah.
parent gets it right. I tell my son and my husband all the time, like, he's probably going to complain to his therapist like about his future,
I'm gonna help it.
whoever his future therapist is, he's probably going to bring, and I'm gonna be the emotionally mature adult and be like, "Wow, like, that was your perspective. That's how you felt. Like, your feelings are valid," and then we work out if there are any perception
Yeah,
differences
and I love that, because there was a couple things we talked and chatted here, and I said, "I didn't know she felt like that. Wait a minute." However, this is the deal. I love what you just said,
Yeah.
Patrice, because you said your feelings are valid. Remember that the person's feelings are valid. It may not be something you agree with, and my feelings are valid. And don't judge the other person. That's what has helped
Yes.
really do this, is because that's our history. She knows my heart.
Yeah.
I know her heart. So don't don't add Mexican spices to all those emotions that you have.
Make 'em spicy.
Make them hot, make them hot, 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 hot.
And also,
because
yeah.
you start building on stuff and you start growing it. And I said, that's not what happened or whatever. Just be careful with that when you start adding a bunch of stuff to it.
And sometimes it's a perception thing. So there have been times when I've come to her and I've been like, "You did this," and she was like, "That was not how that happened." Like, sometimes some of my memories have been slightly different
Skewed.
than what actually happened. So when the reason I became a therapist, because I don't know that did you tell me you went to the school and fussed out the counselor? No, I don't think you ever told me that.
I think it came out on here,
But yeah,
but it came out on something else.
I found
I'm
out.
extremely protected
I
because I got off a plane.
Okay, so we'll
Miss Power
we'll go back a little
with
bit.
a lot of power.
So there were times in my life. So I had a negative interaction with someone, and my mom, without me knowing, she went and clarified what happened, and I think she didn't know that it affected me the way that it did, and she never told me what the clarification was.
That I handled it.
And that was like root, like, that was a seed of like insecurity, and like that was a big momentous thing that I carried for a long time. And then as an adult, she was like, "Oh, we talked like, this is what the person actually meant." And it was, I talked, like, you were upset about it and I talked to them.
I handled it.
But I didn't,
And
and I
so,
think she thought I was okay. So I was really good at pretending to be okay.
yes, she was, and she had a lot of
So
stuff.
I learned from
The best. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, so this is the deal. Okay, so in the school system right now, a lot of parents and teachers and children are sometimes leveraging
Oh, yeah.
some power. And so as a parent, you are careful with going back and handling things. But hear the whole story.
Yeah.
Because so I went back and I heard the whole story. And put it nicely, she was a mop and I was the person sweeping.
So my mom is really good. So I learned how to be like, not like, it's that southern, like, "I just told you off, but you think we're friends."
Yeah.
Like,
half of your behind is missing, but you ain't figured it out.
You don't
You're
even
you're,
know.
you're bleeding, but you don't even know it yet. So
Like
it's
I
a
learned.
gift. It's a gift,
It
and
really
and
is.
it's a problem because I have to be careful because I can be nice Nancy. But in this case, I wasn't. I wasn't. There was no nice in it because.
But it was still perfect because you
Oh
walked
yeah.
in
Oh yeah.
like I'm
Fly.
sure that you were
Oh
that she
yeah.
was
Because I was
dressed
in
from head to
control.
toe,
I was in
and
control.
she went in and she told that lady might have quit. I don't think she did, but my mother went in and told
She was removed.
the guidance counselor that she did not know how to do her job and did not do the bare minimum of what was.
And I brought some
required for
other
her
people
job.
that were above her
You
to make
did?
sure.
We didn't talk about that part. What do you mean?
Yeah, there was some dynamic. How much power did I have?
So my mom. So the situation we're talking
I mean,
about.
I shouldn't say it like that because that makes it sound like I use my power in an adverse manner. I didn't exactly use my power in an adverse manner. But however, however.
Okay, so this is the same woman. I got grounded from gum, and she went to every person on base and
not every
said,
person. I just need to announce it in a couple meetings.
and she said, if you give Patrice gum,
this is my child.
I'm gonna cut your budget.
You will be missing money with no practical explanation. She doesn't have gum for a year.
Yeah. So okay. So let's.
So somebody.
Wait a minute. So
wait, did she just?
So she's so healed, like because the way she was raised, I might. But
I am.
So the gum thing. I was in 6th or 7th grade, or maybe 5th grade. I had just put a brand new piece of gum in my mouth, and I pop gum. I blow bubbles, and the teacher asked me to throw it away, and I only threw away half of the gum. I told y'all, like I'm a little. I was like, I just put this new piece of gum. I'm not throwing away the whole gum. So I threw away half the gum. And then I went back to my seat and I continued to pop and blow bubbles.
When she wasn't thinking, like it's done.
I didn't realize
it's really in my mouth.
That's
so I'm gonna do what I normally
that's just what I do with gum. And so I ended up getting detention. And I had never gotten that's the only detention I've ever gotten in my entire life. The only discipline I've ever gotten from a school in my entire life. And so my consequence was I was grounded from gum for a full 365 days.
Unless it was leap year and it was 366, but it was only 365. And I meant it.
She did.
I meant it. I wasn't playing because there are certain things because of what I did in life, right? So there were some things. And it was a powerful tool because I was up to there were ramifications from
that was a year.
There were ramifications from your decision. No,
I never did it again.
She never did it again.
I never got
She
caught.
would have awards, and she said, "Don't call my mama. Don't call my mother. Or don't call her.
If you call her,
say
this is good. It means
this is good.
First words.
Don't say this is Miss whoever from the school
because I'm already in trouble.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. We got a jet plane. What do you do to get there? But this is what I'll say is that I love what you said earlier, and I want to go back to that. I want to go back to the fact that as a parent, sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to have what we perceive. We do the best we know how to do in the moment. Let me say it like that. Every parent, even people that are not interesting, sometimes they do the best. I'm going to talk about me. I did the best I knew how to do in the moment. However, I probably needed to be on 3 people's couches at the time.
So she had a lot going on.
A lot going on. And I had a lot of pressure, and I was proving, and I was making sure she don't miss anything. And she's living in all these big houses and land and all this crap. However, what she really wanted was more of me.
Yes.
And so we have to be careful when we're in a relationship with people to give them what they need, not what we think they need.
And Sarah asked, like, did you really not have gum for a year? So she literally.
Am I sitting in front of you, Sarah?
So like, yes, I seriously, I did not have gum for. So I had, the reason I was called down to the guidance counselor is because, so my mom used to say things.
Wait a minute, let's go back to the gum for just a second. She finna really get me for this. Okay, so this is how Sarah, to just prove my point. She would get a blow pop.
Yeah.
The guy would give her a blow pop. In one of the bigger facilities, he said, Patrice, he said, you have to bring me back the gum. He said, you can have a blow pop. He said, but I need the gum back. And so she would literally eat the blow pop, suck it off, whatever, suck the blow pop down to the candy, through the candy to the gum. She would take the gum back and they say, okay, everybody on the entire installation.
So we were in Germany. We were on a base. It was a small, because there were only a few places to buy gum, and everybody knew that.
Well,
So
service.
she was well known. Everybody knew her on the base. So
Everybody.
and everybody knew. So I could go into Burger King and be like,
Indeed.
and I did, and I ordered food, and I'll be like, I'll be back with the money.
No, she's my mama take care of it. And they said, okay.
And they would like put the receipt to the side, and she would go back and
take
she would and she would pay for it. So
Now we make that sound like that was a privilege, but let me tell you why. I had an
she worked so
office, no
hard.
lie.
Yeah.
My office had to be 1,400 square feet. They had a TV, they had a bed, they had everything in there for Patrice because I was working 12 and 18. I mean, seriously, it wasn't healthy. Okay. Yeah. However, I was causing things to happen. I was the one that was called the fixer. I would enter into installations and fix their issues. And they would make sure that she was taken care of. They make sure, because I don't do it without me feeling like she's taken care of. So that's the deal. Now I'm gonna go back to the thing that she was gonna let y'all do because it sounds really bad, but I want you to know with love in my heart. Go ahead.
So my mom, she would probably do things different, but she used to say things like, I'm just gonna say it. She would say,
I'll take you out.
I'll take you out. I'll make another one just like you.
I said, I'll get, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to say that word, that word. So,
and she believed in that old school, like your kids should be a little, like I was a little, like, I thought she was, so she never.
The fear of God and the fear of me.
She never harmed me, but like the words. And so I don't recommend.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Your kid will end up in guidance like I did, because a friend appropriately was like, I think she might not be okay. Like, I said something to a friend that was probably like, my mom says, because it was funny. I don't know. It was kind of funny to me because she didn't actually like do the things,
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
But she would say things that
threaten.
were threats. And so 0 out of 10, like, don't do it. Don't recommend it. But, so there was a part of me and the fact that like she had already orchestrated it on the base, that and she's the type of person that would ground me for a year. Like, I'm not. I'm not.
But I would let people come to our house, but you can't go nowhere. I mean, because my house, the house where we were, everybody came to play. There was Brazilian, whatever. I treated them all like they were my kids. They hit the door. Oh, okay, Miss Lloyd. Okay. I know. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. Okay, entry. So that was your entry point. What are the rules? And so people would say, how do you get my child to do all that? They know the rules and they know the consequences.
It's like, and the consequences for somebody else's child is you just can't come back.
Just can't come back for a minute.
And she's spoiled. So like, she would cook. She would have all the snacks. Like she would throw down. Growing up, one of my good friends growing up, her family, they only bought food like, I think it was once or twice a month. And if the food ran out before then, they just didn't have milk. They just didn't have cereal. They just didn't, like, it was like, hey, like, this is the food. And if y'all eat it all, like, it's gone. But in our house, like, if we needed something, then like she would go and get it. Like,
I go get it for everybody else.
It was just different.
My house was a place to hang out. Look, they could be kids. They could run and play. They could do all that stuff. So we had that kind of house. So anyway, I did lightly because of the way I was raised. It wasn't a light. It wasn't light. I was being a little. I was being passive aggressive right there or something. So anyway, so I meant what I said, but I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
So as a parent, that's one of the words that I said that I would have never actually done. I mean, I'm not trying to harm you, but however, I wanted her to know that I wasn't playing with her, and that's the way I did it. But it got us into a situation that somebody turned the comment in, and then the person made some assumptions.
So her name is Johnny, and I think the person looked at my file and was like, "Oh," and assumed Johnny was my dad, and the person started questions about my dad, and like, I'm like, I haven't seen him, and because he was living in Turkey, we were in Germany. I think it had been 3 years since I had seen him in person, and so like that was just, I had never lived with him. I would go for visits, but like that was weird for me. So my mom she was a civilian for over 30 something years. She's retired from civil service. She took a time where she was the chief financial officer for a church, and so she's run like nonprofits. Like she's a phenomenal, like she's a phenomenal businesswoman, and she worked her way up the ranks of civil service. So we would live on Air Force bases when we were overseas, and when we were back in the US, we would typically like get a house in like both. She worked
She
at
was
Air
spoiled.
Force Base. I was spoiled big time.
Okay, so let's go back to what she was alluding to. So at the time that this was happening,
Mhm.
and the lady asked the question, if she had mentioned my name, everybody would tell her, don't play with her, whatever. Anyway, but she didn't. She didn't. She did some stuff that was interesting, and it was kind of sneaky, and it was not good. So I was in another country.
Yeah,
because
You
part
were
of
in
my
the
job,
US. Yeah.
part of my job was to do a lot. Anyway, so I was in another country when this happened. So when I hit back,
She landed,
I
drove straight to the school. Probably in
so the
Frankfurt.
driver took me. He said, "John," he said, "they already gave me instruction." I said, "Okay." So we went with bags, went straight to the school,
Didn't know this.
and got to her. Walked into school. Walked into school.
The guidance counselor.
And the principal, everybody looking at me. Oh,
Did you do the budget for the school?
I had all the money up here. Anyway, but DOTS is a different system.
Okay.
That school system is a different system, but they have to come to every facility that I control.
Okay.
So you can be in the school, but that's all you protected from.
And even if she didn't, so she still would have been a mama bear if she
I am
didn't
a
have
mama
power.
bear.
But like, give her a little power. Oh, she's gonna.
But I didn't abuse my power.
Yeah, she did.
What I did was I helped other people, because this person was not, she didn't just do it to me. She did it to other people. But
She was just
not having a good day when she did it to this
She
one.
wasn't good at her job.
She wasn't.
Okay.
She wasn't.
So it was weird because I had never met with her before. So like her first question was like, "Oh, so how's school going?" Great. And her second question was, "Does your dad ever touch you?" And I was like, "What?" Like I'm like because I like because it would be different if she had said, "Hey, I think some people were a little concerned about your safety. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I just want you to like you're safe, everything's fine. Like who do you live with? Tell me about your family." Like that would have been how
Normal.
somebody that has training and talking with children should, but like she did such a bad job. And if I had never met her, I probably would be an accountant, like my mom.
Which really hurt my feelings. That's a whole nother story.
We have another episode talking about that.
Wait. She did this. I thought me and her were gonna be CPAs together, and we gonna open this business, and we were gonna rock the world, right? One day she came home, she wasn't gonna be. She wasn't gonna be.
I'm gonna be a therapist.
She's gonna be a what? Wait, hair dryer. I mean, all kinds of stuff she went through. Let your children walk through what they think they desire to be, because they don't know. Let them enjoy it. So, and I would ask her questions, like when she said she's gonna be the hair designer. I said, do you want to live like this? Do you want to live like you live now?
You need to own like a franchise shop.
This is not free. So anyway, but what happened is that, and two things happened. Because Patrice didn't know I handled it, there were some things that happened to her during that process that caused her to be in this space that she's in now. So somebody may look back at that and said, well, dang, she should have told her. I could have told her. However, her path may have been different had I told her. I don't know. I don't know if she would have been a guidance counselor. I mean, a
but it would have been good for me to know that validation. That now you probably told me like on the phone when I called you, because I said
I handled it.
I don't even remember calling you to tell you what did. Oh, what do you mean?
Like, no. You told them because you got called.
They called.
Yeah,
and they called you.
They said,
I don't remember.
Okay, my kind of job I had. I'm not gonna say,
but you didn't fly back just for that. You did? No. Because I thought you came to the end of your.
I was a week out. I was less than a week out.
Okay, I don't know.
So in this week, because Patrice is very okay. So
Patrice tells everything.
Patrice tells everything. So I call Patrice frequently when I'm not here, right? Because I want to know, you're safe. She has a great family. She was dealing with, being there and all that good stuff. And so somebody says something. Patrice went through something. Something happened.
Hmm?
with my baby. So I said, what's going on? So she was doing and then she told me, and I started dialing some digits.
Because even so, I think I was in 7th grade or 8th. I was in 7th or 8th grade, and I knew what she did wasn't okay. And it wasn't that it was just that wasn't how. Because God, if something wasn't okay, I wouldn't have told her.
Yeah.
Like just like the way, how are you? Are like that was just if something was wrong. So to me, she was rushing through her job. Like, okay, I got this report. I have to follow up, and but she knew nothing about me.
Yeah, because the woman came in. Anyway, but let's talk about it and bring it back to seasons. I
Yeah.
just don't want us to miss that. There are seasons in our life that we are the mama bear. I mean, I'm a mama bear naturally. Naturally. I mean, we just went to a function last month, and I was in the corner and all the kids went. I was telling Patrice, I said, I don't even like kids. Why do they follow me? It's not true. That's not true. And I have to be careful with saying what's true in my life. Um, because of the people, kids nowadays, people say the kids are so rough and they're so horrible and all this stuff. That's not true, guys. That's not true. There's a couple people that are having some issues and they need help, but don't lump all people in a group. Don't lump everybody in a group. We wouldn't want people to lump us with a group of whatever, right? So be careful with that. So when you're going through a season,
Mhm.
address the season,
Mhm.
identify, assess it.
Mhm.
I did an assessment on what happened.
Mhm.
I did some because I'm a researcher. So I said, I need this, I need that, I need some stuff, right? And so people were working this because they said, oh snap. So because I am who I am. But by the time I hit the ground, they were trying to tell me at the airport, we've handled it. Everything is okay.
Nope.
They were trying to tell me everything is okay. We fixed it.
Nope.
It's all good.
Nope.
And he said, the general said, take you to, I said, let's go. So we went because I don't care what they say in your season when it comes to your children, when it comes to your life. It's not about other people's opinion. Remember that if you're on these platforms, if you're listening to this stuff, if you're looking at everything everybody's telling you you need to be, you have to have all of that stuff. This is the holiday season. Do you understand that? You know how many commercials are trying to spin and get in your pocket? Think about the season you're in.
Yes.
Be intentional about what you desire in your life and walk it out. Be bold enough, be brave enough to walk it out. Will you always be right? You ain't gonna always be right. However, will you always be authentic to who you are at your very DNA? That's it. Be authentically you. Does it mean that other people may have your DNA and be a little, you know? However, you want them to be better than you are. You want their lives and their children to be raised better than you.
I want to
You want
go
all that.
back to when there are similar, because sometimes what I've seen is people struggle the most with the child that's the most like them. Because sometimes it's like, okay, I was kind of that way, and this is how I handle things. And even if there are similarities between me and my child, they are different. So my son, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before. The biggest trigger for me is when I tell him not to do something. He looks at me and he does it anyway,
Wait,
and I'm
while he's looking at her.
like, and so we are a consequences family, natural consequences. She used discipline that we don't use, and we've talked about some of that here. And so my child has zero fear of me, period. But I'm also teaching him that his body is his, and that we don't love through like hitting or through like
Oh, yeah.
physical discipline or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's not okay for him to hit me, and I don't hit him. And so um I think sometimes there can be these, so I've had to manage my stuff and my emotions, because there were times when it was like, this would be so much easier if like I could get his behavior in check. But then so my child, the good thing is something happened at school that wasn't okay, and he immediately told his father. Now, if I think if we did things different, I don't know if he would have felt safe enough to come to us and tell us. And so sometimes when you're parenting different, when you're doing things different, and what works for one person, what works for me will not work for you. What works and one parenting book is not going to have all the things that you need. I used to joke, and I'm serious. I do not have a book baby. Like there is no one book that that helps me.
Trust me.
Like my kiddo, he is a mini me, but then also he's like he's also a little bit of his dad. Because like this morning he was like, my hot chocolate smells weird. He's like, smell it. I'm like, I tasted it and I was like, it tastes fine. And he was like, smell it. I'm like, that's no, I'm
That's
no, no. If you don't want it, don't drink it.
I am
Like,
not. I'm not entering the toilet.
no, no, I'm not. And so sometimes you have to just let your kids be you. Now, something that I've seen, and we did a whole episode on this, and it's the episode titled something to the effect of like, are your kids a reflection of you? Because I've had some people get embarrassed by things their kids have done, or they get so if I go to the grocery store, my child might get upset if I tell him no. Now, I am not going to give in and give it to him just to make him stop. Like he might just make a scene, but like I'm going to be consistent. And if I said no, the answer is no. And he might get upset about it. And cuz sometimes what I've seen is people not being consistent. And when you start being consistent, they don't like it because they were getting their way before.
Yeah.
And it's natural. All kids want to get their way, but they need those boundaries. Let me know if you all have any final questions for us as we kind of start to wrap things up. So what was one of you mentioned the boundaries episode as one of your favorites. Anything else that you learned or anything else you wanted to say about a highlight from the podcast?
One of the things that I want to say about a highlight from the podcast that's really powerful for me, and it's not intended to, I hope it doesn't trigger or do anything for anybody else, was the level of a learning. So there were some things that I would say,
Oh, yes.
and Patrice said, "Keith, that ain't," but she would explain to me, how to say it, or how to say something that would not offend other people, or to respect. Are you hearing me? It's not that I don't respect people, because I do. I love people. I'm really so. However, where my mindset was a season, it was a season, and things were changing, and there were some shifts that I desired to make that I wasn't even aware that I needed to make. Does that make sense?
Because there were some specific topics. So I try to be a body positive place where I'm not really talking a lot about like diet culture. Now, if people are doing things for health, let's talk about it for health. Let's talk about being healthy. But because we've all been on different journeys. And so I was careful. Like if we were, because there was a time when I had to make adjustments in my life because the doctor was like, your A1C is a little high. But I didn't talk about some of those things publicly because some things can be triggering. And the other thing, so my mom watched my LGBTQ video for parents, because so like my mom, because so we started in 2021, a lot of issues became public about like individuals who are non-binary, people that I wanted the language on the podcast to be inclusive. And so like if she was talking about, oh, like a husband and a wife, I would kind of be like, or like, oh, men do. And so I kind of tried to sometimes have the language be inclusive, and for this to be a safe space for my audience, because there are people that follow me, and so we have to dismantle some of our own thoughts, some of how we might have been taught. And so that's where when I talk about generational, like in the 50s, people weren't able to like be non-binary like that just wasn't a thing. And so a lot has changed and grown relatively quickly. And so that was something that we
And
did
that's one of
here.
the things that gave me a lot of grace and power in it, and I appreciate it. I really do. And the other thing is the way that we have emotionally, physically grown, and I am more comfortable um, in the because I'm used to doing things on my own, and not in
Oh,
this duality kind of situation. She has helped me do the duality of it, where we, because normally when we talking, we used to talk like over, but we would follow each other, and y'all have been so graceful. That's the other thing. I am just so thankful for the audience.
mhm.
I'm so thankful for how you have supported and still can support my baby.
Aw.
I appreciate the way that she educates, teaches, trains, and provides a lot of not just content, but information that is revelatory, that is revelation, not just information but revelation. It has been it is very powerful, and that has helped me up my game. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at being in relationship with people, and going back to what she said about being intentional, what do you bring and what do you desire, right? In the relationship. And I'm not talking about just the I'm talking about girlfriend, boy. I'm not talking about a romantic
Yeah.
relationship. I'm talking about any relationship, a family relationship, whatever. When I go in with purpose. So go into relationships with purpose, and then build on the value of the other person. That's what I would say.
I want to answer a few of the
Oh, okay.
questions
Good, good. I
that
love
have come
questions.
in. So Sarah did a really good one. I asked for a coloring book when I was 7, and my mom told me no. I put it back and said, "Are we having financial difficulties?" And there were times that, especially when we would move back to the US, we would like we would spend way too much money. We would go all out, and we would spend way too much money. And then my mom would say, "Hey, we're on a tight budget." Like she would let me know we're not going to be spending money on extra things. We would still find ways to have fun. We would still like enjoy things. And even now, so my son knows that Christmas is coming. So if he asks me for a coloring book today, it might be like where the budget's going towards Christmas. Now I do so I do sometimes, so I'm big. I splurge with him. I do. He is very, very spoiled. And what I do for Christmas is honestly our family spoil my mom, my dad, his grandparents, so my husband's parents, his aunts and uncles and family and friends. People just spoil him where I don't really buy him that much for Christmas. So I buy an advent calendar, and I normally get like a few other stocking stuffers, stuff like that. And and the one thing I don't do is Santa doesn't do big gifts. And so he doesn't, I think so Santa in our house does the stockings because it's really hard when kids go back to school and Santa got somebody a Nintendo Switch. So no, mommy and daddy got you a, like, you need to say thank you. Don't say thank you to some imaginary person. I'm sorry, to some person. You need to say thank you to me. No, because if you're not listening, or we're like you can't say you Santa gave it. No, mommy and daddy got that for you, or grandma and grandpa, whoever. And so those are some things that we do. Did you want to say anything about that?
No, I like that. The thing about it is that and you can go back to previous episodes.
Mhm.
There was a season where I was homeless, and Patrice was, so there were some adjustments that needed to be made. And I had the tendency, and I was in a class this morning that knows when things are a little tight, I have the tendency to draw back. However, what I shifted my tendency to was when things are a little tight in my life, I take something that I have and I share it or give it. Let's
Oh,
say
yeah,
I started, because I need my mind to be triggered to say there's abundance.
yeah.
There's more, that we are not in lack. I'm not in lack. I'm not a person that draws lack. I'm a person that draws abundance. So I may take go through my closet and give a thing away a day, or go in and give somebody a note. It doesn't have to be money, or I can call somebody. I start sharing and giving of myself. So that's how I have been able to help break the cycle of the mental thing that sometimes comes with the I'm gonna call it the spirit of lack.
So this is a great question. How do you support each other through times of grief? And this has changed because I think at first, I don't know that I gave people space, and we really hadn't lost anyone significant. Like we really, and we've done episodes. So please check out the Legacy Moments podcast, because you can grieve good things. You can grieve a new job. So we had a lot of transition. And something my mom always did is in the midst of transition, she would give me a voice. So we lived in Germany, and she asked me when I was in, she was like, I can stay 2 more years. And she really wanted to stay. So if it had been 100% up to her, she wanted to stay 2 more years. But then I would have been moving back to the US my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and adjustments were socially, that was going to be hard. And so I was like, I really wanted to go back for my 10th grade year. And she did that.
Mm-hmm.
When we moved to Virginia, she said, you get to pick the school. She was mad later. I picked the most expensive district in the whole area.
And I thought, okay, it was so, and so this is a transfer of mindset, because there was a lot going on, and I had resources, but I couldn't, in my head, I had been overseas so long, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't fathom paying that kind of money for a house, or fathom paying that money for whatever. But I paid that money for rent,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. But neither here nor there. But my point for her saying that was really powerful. When we give our children options, even if I had to move into an apartment, we not talk about the stuff I had to move it in, but in the apartment, I would have done that, because I gave her the option. Because when our children or we sacrifice, then what do we want out of the sacrifice that we're making?
And what happened was the movers from Germany stole so much stuff from us. It ended up contributing to like a down payment
for a house.
That's
how much they stole.
Wait
a minute, and they still had to deliver 3 truckloads.
Like, how do you have anything left?
That's what the lady. They asked me. They said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry. As much as they stole, you can't have those in your shipment." I said, "No,
come on out. Come and see."
So she came. She said, "How in the world?" So anyway, but this is what I'll say is that I'm never attached to stuff. Mm-hmm. Y'all hear me? I'm not attached to stuff, and I mean, I have really exquisite taste. I'm not attached to stuff. I'm attached to people. Mm-hmm. I'm attached to relationship. I'm not attached to stuff, because you can lose stuff in a twinkling of an eye. And the most important person in my life is the people that I love. That's it.
So I think one of the biggest transitions we've had now with supporting each other in grief is letting one another be sad, letting one another have that grief and not trying to make it go away. Yeah. So I learned that more with helping a different family member grieve, was that they needed to feel all that pain, because I had worked with people with traumatic grief. And when people hold it back and when people don't feel, it causes problems down the road. It really, it's the person going through it that I think we should prioritize them. Because I think sometimes when people are grieving, I think it's hard for the other people to let them grieve, and how they decide to do it is on them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people make decisions or things happen and you're like, I wouldn't do it that way, but like, hey, like that's them, and letting them be them.
And don't allow anybody to tell you what grief looks like for you, how long you can stay in that. And when I say that, there's different levels of grief, right? And so sometimes things trigger me, like around the house. When Patrice got married, there was a trigger. My mother had been deceased for a long time, but that was a trigger for me because it was such a huge event. I wanted her. Yeah. So I went into a mode of grief, and it showed up very interestingly for Patrice when she was doing something. Like, you wanted somebody to sit at my table.
Oh, I didn't know that was grief.
It was like my mom. Anyway, there was an issue that was coming.
Josephine came out a little
No,
bit.
yeah, Josephine and Andrew popped up. So anyway, but my point is that there may be things that trigger us, right? Just be aware, self-aware, so that because we don't want to hurt anybody in our present moment based on things that have already.
So sometimes I think, oh, like it's my wedding. I'm good. She was like, if you sit that person at my table, nope, we're gonna have a problem. And so I made it work.
I was writing the checks, y'all.
I made it work, and we
But
were.
you
okay
have to
with it.
tell people. You have to
Yes,
tell people,
communicate.
because if I had sat there and
You
let
would've
it
been mad.
happen, the whole event would
Yeah.
not have been good for me.
Mhm.
So we are responsible for our emotions. We are responsible for letting people know how we feel. Does that mean that they'll respond the way we anticipate them to? No. However, now they're empowered to know. Do they need to justify my emotion? No. My emotion is real to me. Whatever I'm feeling is real to me. I get a chance to express it. And I don't want to express it in public in a crazy way that would not benefit nobody. I want to express it in private so she knows how I feel, so she can respond.
All right. So the next question is for parenting one's parents. And so that one might be more than we can get into briefly.
Parenting one parent. That's
here.
a good one.
It's a really good one. And so I think that is probably like a whole other, because sometimes you become and I don't know if you want to call it parenting or caregiver, because sometimes now if the individual has memory issues and if you have to become their like legal guardian, but you might look at it might be better to look at it as a caregiver versus like parenting them. But that's up to you. That's between you and
there's two sides of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are parenting their parents.
Yeah.
No offense, but some people are, because they're, for whatever reason, you may be the one with the most wisdom or whatever. It may not just be illness. It may be actions and ways and things that they're doing that doesn't make sense. Because there are days that Patrice act like she my mama. Am I lying? Am I lying?
I share my opinion.
Does that mean I wasn't lying, y'all? That's what that means. I mean, I wasn't lying. So in that moment, she made like she's parenting me. So
she's the mama, yeah.
But she knows where I'm still the one making the decision, but she says something to when I say trigger, this is not negative, to cause me to think in a different direction. Because like if I'm saying, I'm meeting some guy, she said, well, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this?
The best example was that email you almost sent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
She read an email to me and I was like, how about you run that through ChatGPT and ask it to make it a little less aggressive?
I was good with my email though, y'all. But this is when you need somebody on the outside of you, because you don't want to damage relationships. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to damage other people, because there is a tone that comes out when we do things on text and all. There's a tone that comes out. And she was right. After Chat played with it, I said, Dad. I said, thank you so much. But in that moment, she was being the I don't want to call it a parent, but she was being she was looking at it from a different perspective. So sometimes parenting parents may look like you're parenting them, but what you're doing is you're helping in the relationship, because that's what she did. She helped me in the relationship.
Okay. And I think this goes with this question of how do you transition from a child relationship to an adult relationship? Wow. And I think it depends on the maturity of the child and making sure that you're setting some clear boundaries, expectations, all of that. So I lived with my mom while I was in grad school. Okay. So she put me through undergrad and I would come home. So what would happen? So I didn't know how much toilet paper costs. Like, I didn't know how much paper towels are expensive. Like, I didn't know.
They were using them like they were water.
I didn't know like how
much.
Magically
some elf showed up with all the stuff.
So like she's always had an abundance. So
and I do.
So like her idea of we need to go get more toilet paper is when there's like the last Costco size, when we open the last Costco size one of like, however many rolls, 100, however many rolls of I don't know, 15, 18, whatever. Anyway. But, and so, there was a time when we lived, so like when she moved into the house I owned, and
that's a good example.
And I think, and we shared expenses, and we ended up communicating about how the boundaries, how all that would work. I sometimes work with kids or like the young adults about, even though you're an adult, you still need to be respectful. So even when I was an adult living with her, if I was going to go salsa dancing, I would let her know like, "Hey mama, I'm going out with some friends. I'll be back around like 1 or 2 a.m." Because I know she doesn't go to sleep for good until I'm home. And so and I never did it, but if I was going to stay out like all night or something, I would stay with a friend and she would know like, "Hey, I'm staying with this person. I'm not coming back tonight." And she'd be like, "All right, no problem." And so, and that's not her controlling me. That's just, we live in the same house. Like, I want you to know if the alarm is going to be like set or not. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to know, like, you should call someone if you don't hear from me by like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, like,
Are
so,
you on the side? Where were you?
so it
But when you
wasn't,
don't know
yeah,
what to do. So it was a matter of a
respect.
mutual
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And so like I said, that the transitioning relationships, that's going to look different for every person. I think we do have some older
We do.
podcasts
I think we do.
on like relationships with parents.
Yeah, and because I think one of them talks about the fact when she lived with me, she was getting her master's doctorate program, and she came to live with me because I moved into this home, and she said, "I ain't gonna let you live back there by yourself," and so she came and moved, and so she ended up paying some residual
300.
amount, $300 a month,
I paid for the electric bill. That was it.
and that's because the electric bill was really really low because we were on we had a heating system, anyway,
Special system.
a special system. But this is the deal: when your child comes back, and some adults or somebody may see this later, when your child comes back or you move into with them, be respectful, not just in with the relationship, but be respectful by giving, by sharing, by giving. And so what I did was, and she did the same thing. She got $300 wasn't paying jack up in that house, and it just wasn't. It just wasn't. However, and the show wasn't paying for the food because remember I was feeding these people too. Anyway, so but you want to bless them. So even if you don't need the resources, think about this as a
Yeah,
parent.
put it
Take
aside.
the money and set it aside for them, but let them know there's a cost to being there.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a huge cost, but let them know that there's a cost of being there, and it builds responsibility. And then you set it aside if you don't need it. No problem.
And I have certain expectations. So when my child, once he graduates from high school, he'll have choices. It's like, "Hey, do you want to get a job? Do you want to do trade school? Do you want to go to college? Like, what are you going to do now?" Because you're not just going to sit in my house and do nothing. Now, if he needed the summer to like rest and take a break because he did so well academically, okay. But I would have certain expectations and boundaries around like what he could and couldn't do. Um, I think that's important within any relationship. And sometimes if there have been issues with boundaries in the past, you actually put it in like a lease or like you write it down. Like if it's for me as a person, if sometimes if they hang around with some people that I might not agree with, I might say like, "This is what is and is not okay." And violating these things can mean that I give you 30-day notice and you have to leave or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where, so like if I was being disrespectful, if I was like smoking in her house and if I was like breaking stuff and damaging stuff, she's looking like, "Woo, woo," like
I don't even know how to understand that.
she would have kicked me out. Like she would have,
With all her stuff.
she would have.
Wait a minute, I would have got the rental mover, the moving company. I said, "No, baby, I'll pay for
Where
it.
are you going?
Where you going?" They waiting on you. They waiting on you to take you somewhere
Because there are some people that are entitled and they think, "Oh, like this is my house too, or I pay rent so I can do what I want." And it's like, hey, if you think that way, you might need your own place where you can do all those things. Because yes. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with having boundaries. I do recommend that people sit down and try to have them together where it's like, "Hey, how are we going to show respect? Like what do you think is a good amount to pay?" And I might already have in my mind what my lowest is. And But having some of those conversations, because what can be hard is if the person is living in your house and then we start having problems, that can be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And I do not believe that you have to maintain relationships with people that are not safe for you, that are not. So if I have a family member that is constantly disrespecting my home, disrespecting my property, I can set a boundary of, hey, I'll meet you at IHOP. Like I'm not gonna like you can't nope, like I'll meet you out. And because sometimes people are like, oh, you can't treat Aunt so and so. Like, no,
No.
it's my home. I get to have peace in my home. So
And when you say we have peace in a physical property, but remember you have peace in your heart, your head. You have peace. So don't you can't physically. Okay, I shouldn't say can't. There are certain places I don't go
mhm.
and I don't participate. I tell people in a minute, I love you with the love of God. I love you at a distance because I understand you're toxic or the person is toxic, right? So I understand you're toxic. I understand the situation. And it takes me 3 days to recover or 2 days or out. No, no, but thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So be true to yourself as we continue to close up.
Mhm.
This is always wonderful. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, but we have so much fun together. And then I'm thinking, but we can't do it on a regular. So I'm looking forward to being a guest on future shows for her and vice versa. I'm looking forward to staying connected to you. Know this: if you DM me and you have an issue in the area of money, speak any of the things we're talking about, or you think you want to ask a question, direct message me. Direct message me.
And then you might make like a
And then
video
I will.
that
I'll make a
answers the
video to answer
question.
the question. And I'll put, I won't put your name, but I'll say, this is the question I got and I'm address it. It can be a short video or whatever. It's always been our heart, and this is the reason we set it up, is that we wanted to serve.
Yeah.
That was our intention. Because legacy is not just about what you leave. Legacy is what you live. Do you hear me? Living a legacy is so important. And yes, you can hire me to speak.
That living legacy, because that's where we started, and I think that's a good place to wrap things up, because legacy is now, because often people think of legacy as what they leave and they don't think about living a legacy, building a legacy now. And that's really what we wanted to encourage, making your now enjoyable. How can we help in areas around? So her thing was finances, my thing is psychology. How could we come together to just help give tips and tools? If y'all have things that y'all would like for us to talk about, that y'all would like to be covered, please just leave it in the comments on the video. Check out the playlist if you like this. If you didn't even know that I had a podcast, so there is if you go on YouTube, there's a podcast tab and there's a whole playlist. I think we have over 50 videos there. Now, some of the original ones, so like our sound quality, like we've gotten better along the way. I know somebody that's interested in starting a podcast, and I was like, they were like, what was the hardest thing? And I was like, just starting it. Just do it. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going. And to me, we have learned so much along the way, and it truly has just been a phenomenal journey. We so appreciate you all, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.